Hi, John Fisher here, and welcome to Criminal Justice in a Nutshell. Today's topic is going to be crime and deviance. Now, crime and deviance are two subject matters that are vastly humongous, and you could spend years studying crime and deviance. In fact, people spend their entire career studying crime and deviance. So, this little snippet of crime and deviance, this nutshell of crime and deviance, is going to rely upon you to go out further than just what I say here today, and to search out crime and deviance in a little more detail. Okay, so let's get things started, and let's start with deviance. Deviance is an action or behavior that is outside of the norm of the general society. So what happens, or what deviance is defined by, is society itself. But it doesn't necessarily have to be bad to everybody. Not everybody has to think that it's deviant. Some deviant behavior is more than willingly accepted by subcultures within the greater society. But the greater society is able to determine what is and what is not deviant. Now, stating that just because it's deviant does not mean that it's a crime. Just because it's a crime doesn't mean that it's deviant. Okay, so let's pick a couple examples of deviance that have changed over time. For example, tattoos. Back a long time ago, way back in ancient history, back when my parents were running around and I was a little wee lad, deviance was tattoos. If you had a tattoo, any tattoo, the only people that had tattoos back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s were criminals and people who worked on the oceans, the Navy, the Merchant Marines, fishermen, Popeye. These are the kinds of people that had tattoos. You did not find well-respected, middle-class people having tattoos in America 30 years ago or 40 years ago. Well, that changed as time went through. I think Dennis Rodman was the first one to really bring tattoos to the forefront. Okay, and I remember growing up, Dennis Rodman was, they called him the Worm, but I don't know why they called him the Worm. But he showed up covered in tattoos playing basketball for the Pistons. And he was just covered, his arms, his neck, his chest, his back. He just had tattoos everywhere. And that eventually, we thought bad about Dennis Rodman when he first come to the world scene. But it's okay. He's a basketball player. It's okay. And then today we're finding that everybody is getting a tattoo. Madonna has tattoos. Britney Spears has tattoos. The students, you guys have tattoos. Okay, so what was a deviant behavior a long time ago is no longer a deviant behavior because society has grown to accept it. Okay, Rush Limbaugh said on one of his shows a couple years ago, I heard him say that it takes 3 generations to change society. Okay? The first generation is going to make it taboo and it's not going to be acceptable. The second generation is going to accept it and they're going to say, that's your world, that's your stuff. You just keep it over there. I don't want to see it. And then the third generation is going to embrace it and accept it. Okay? Like my parents' generation, they don't have tattoos. Okay, you don't find a whole lot of people with tattoos unless, of course, they're criminals or bikers or, they're in the Navy or were in the Navy or things to that nature. My generation, you started seeing more tattoos, but again, it was still on the outside of the general society, or there were tattoos that were hidden. There was a lot of tattoos where people were hiding them. I've got a tattoo, but don't tell anybody. Well, that's changed. Today, everybody's getting tattoos. They're all over the place. There's sleeves. There's all kinds of things. Okay? It's not a crime to have a tattoo, and now it's accepted. So what is a deviant activity that most people would think is deviant today. We don't talk about it. There's things that we whisper in the hallways. But and Dr. Ruth probably wouldn't be too happy with it, but masturbation is still, in some worlds, considered deviant. It's not accepted. There was an imam that reported the other day that said Muslim men who masturbate will go into the afterlife with pregnant hands because masturbation is not acceptable. It's considered a deviant activity. But it's not a crime. You can, as long as you're not masturbating in public or in front of kids or with kids or anything like that, it's an acceptable behavior. Nobody cares. Okay, so if we turn around and let's apply crime. How do we define crime? Crime is defined by, again, society stating that this should be against the law, and if you do this action, it should be punished. Laws are created with the intent, the desire to protect society from harm, from danger. Speeding limits are set up so that we do not go too fast. Here in West Texas, we like our speed limits high because to get from Midland to El Paso or Midland to Abilene or Midland to San Angelo, these are 1 and 2 and 3 hour trips traveling at 75 miles an hour. Now, could you imagine driving at 55 like the speed limit is up in Boston, where you can get anywhere in the state driving 55 in 3 or 4 hours? Okay, well, Texas likes their speed limits high so that we can get places faster and quicker, and it doesn't seem like we're standing still. I know that when I go up north, once I cross the Mason-Dixon line, it's like, oh my God, we're standing still. I can walk faster than this. But it's a crime to go beyond the speed limit. It is not really deviant to speed. Nobody really cares, I don't think. But that's how crime is. Crime is set by the majority of the population and set by legislatures and other governmental agencies that will turn around and ensure that you have established or that you follow the rules or follow the laws for the betterment of society in general. Okay. Now, some crimes are deviant. Child molestation has been in the news a lot here this June, the May and June of 2015, because of Denny Hastert and Josh Duggar, okay, where they've both been involved in sexual molestation of young children. Granted, Josh Duggar was 14 at the time. Denny Hastert was a wrestling coach and high school teacher, and his victims were high school students. Josh Duggar's victims were his little sisters. This action in itself is considered extremely deviant, and it's also a crime because it is mele in se. It is evil within itself, and because it's evil within itself, it is deviant activity and it is a crime. I hope you understand the differences or the similarities, and you get a better grasp on what crime and deviance is, okay, or is not. Okay, and again, thank you very much. This is John Fisher signing out for Criminal Justice in a Nutshell.